What do you get when you cross Batman with the Joker? A $25 repaint. Stick around to find out if it's worth it or if the joke's on me. Welcome to 5 Points of Articulation, where I review action figures and then articulate 5 points to help you decide if you want to add that figure to your collection. The 5 points I discuss are packaging, presentation, posability, playability, and price. I'm Jason, and if you enjoy my content, please like, share, subscribe, do all the YouTube rigmarole. Today we're revisiting Dark Detective Batman with the all-new Target Exclusive Jokerized version. Starting off with the packaging, and it's one of the most interesting things to talk about. We've seen the typical DC Multiverse window box about 1,000,000 times now. This one subverts expectations by being covered in Joker-style graffiti. Over here we have a bunch of ha-has, some purple and green splotches, future state scribbled out, some more splotches and ha-has up top, nothing on the other side but a DC Universe Infinite QR code. But then on the back we get some more scribbles over some Batman artwork. I like the Joker bat symbol in the corner, and honestly this is pretty fun. In an unchanging sea of black, blue, and white, this really stands out. The most McFarlane usually does is maybe change the logo in the corner, so this does give me more hope for variety. It's also noteworthy for being the first time we've seen to build a wave-size box without having any kind of build-a-piece. As for whether or not the accessories it does come with justify the extra wide box and extra high price, that's a conversation for later, but since McFarlane did go above and beyond to give us something new for packaging, I'm giving this figure an above and beyond 2 points. Moving on to presentation, and Dark Detective Batman stands at just under 7¼ inches. It's also just a straight up repaint of the Dark Detective Batman we looked at a year ago. From the top when we have our Jokerized Batman head, it kind of reminds me of the Batman imposter that Heath Ledger went after in The Dark Knight. Instead of gray, the torso armor is black. Really helps that green sloppy bat symbol to stand out. Flipping it around, it's very Joker-like. And unlike the original, which had a lot of nice dry brushing to bring the detail out, this one does not. Because of the Joker theme, though, it doesn't really bother me. In fact, there are only 2 things about this version of the figure that do bother me. The left arm and the right arm. For one thing, I really don't like the fact that they're still flesh tone. Don't get me wrong, I get that the argument could be made that this is just face paint, but if that's the case, why did the Joker go to the extent of painting his neck and ears? I just think having it all white would have made more sense. Also, on the original figure, there was some light gray fabric around the gloves, but because they didn't paint that here, it makes his arms look flappy and gross. It's just one of those things that once you see it, you can't unsee it. One thing I do like, however, is the difference in the gauntlet. The original was black with blue gloves and it never really worked for me. Thanks to texture, this one is a much better match for the shoulder pads, and the black gloves just make more sense. They also look like he got into a fist fight with a predator. Moving on down, the pants on the new one are definitely more green, but it's a bit subdued. Going all the way down, just like the gloves, there's a lot of bright green slapped on the boots. Even though the original did get 5 out of 5, I've been pretty open about the fact that I'm not crazy about Dark Detective Batman. Not having read the comics it came from, it's just not a look that speaks to me. As a Jokerized version, however, I appreciate it a lot more. Again, I think it would be great as a comic book style Joker henchman, or as a live action Heath Ledger Joker style victim. But as much as I appreciate the creativity, those unpainted forearms really take me out of it. You can pose them so it's less obvious, but like I always say, I shouldn't have to. Even though I like this better than the original, for presentation, I'm giving Jokerized Batman half a point. Moving on to posability, and while we have already looked at this, it has been a year, so there's no harm in revisiting it. As always, the head's in a dumbbell joint, this far up, that far down, little bit of tilt, and all the way around. Moving down, these shoulder pads do get in the way, so he can only raise his arm up this high. He does get forward and back with rotator cuffs, but for some reason they match the torso and not the jacket, though upon further inspection that was the same thing with the original. He does have bicep swivel, but once again it is hindered by the shoulder pad, and thanks to a combination of his double jointed elbow and flappy arms, he does get a pretty decent bend. Traveling down the end of the arms, he has wrist balls nicely hidden by those gauntlets. Admit it though, all you're looking at are those gross arms. And then moving to the middle, he has a diaphragm joint and a dumbbell waist. Even using both, he can't really arch back because of the coat, but for a DC Multiverse figure, I'm very impressed with how far forward he can hunch. He also gets tilt and twist. Oh, on that note, he has typical McFarlane hips. They can kick this high and split this wide. They get a pretty decent twist, but it doesn't matter because this figure has thigh cut. Normally the only DC Multiverse figures who get thigh cuts also get motorcycles, but so far we haven't gotten one for him. Maybe it's just so you can put them on ones we already have. You know what? Yeah, That works for me. Getting back to posability though, and he has double jointed knees, toe articulation, and McFarlane ankles that can swivel, hinge, and pivot. In preparation for this review, I revisited the original. Thanks to the torso articulation and especially the thigh cut, I gave that figure 1 whole point, and I frankly don't see any reason to disagree now. For posability, I'm giving the Jokerized Dark Detective Batman 1 whole point. Moving on to playability, and this is the section I have been the most curious about. First things first, he comes with a trading card. You'll notice that the artwork is the same from the box. Flipping them around, there's even Joker scribbles on the back. Unfortunately, it is the same write-up we got with the original Dark Detective. Call me optimistic, but I was kind of hoping that these cards would give us some kind of a lore to go along with the Jokerized versions of the characters, but what we did get is a trading card stand. The DC logo has been nicely sculpted in, and there's some Joker-style graffiti on it too. Up here you can see a couple of slots, and the card slips in like so. The curvature of the DC logo cuts off the character name, unfortunately, but otherwise I love this concept. Seeing these items displayed like this really puts me in mind of the old Movie Maniac series and their bony marquees. Additionally, Dark Detective Batman comes with a unique figure stand. Every DC Multiverse figure gets this basic black one with the logo stamped on. This one, however, is a bright purple with even brighter green detailing. Seeing something this different is very refreshing. Lastly, for the part I was the most curious about, he comes with 4 playing cards. This includes a Jokerized version of the 10 of Diamonds. We got a present and some ha-has and some bat faces. We also have the King of Hearts. Admittedly, it took me a second to realize this was supposed to be a heart. We also get a heavily graffitied Queen of Clubs and the Ace of Spades. On the back is a very interesting and reversible design. If you're wondering, they're the same thickness as the trading cards. I speculate that we're going to be getting either 13 or 14 figures in this line. I say that because a standard deck of cards is 52, which goes into 4 13 times, but a deck of cards also includes Jokers, so we could get a 14th figure just for those. As for Batman himself, unfortunately, he does not include any character-specific accessories. But playability is more than just playing cards and card holders. It's also about how well your figure plays with others. Since this is a Jokerized Batman, I'm going to be mainly sticking with Batman and Joker figures. If, of course, you want to see more comparisons, you can always check out my original video. First up, and here we have the Grim Knight. This is one I'd love to see get the Jokerized treatment. Next up is Arkham Knight. Here we have the first Page Punchers, and the second Page Punchers based on Injustice 2. Here we have Arkham City, Earth 2 with his freakishly long arms, and Christian Bale from The Dark Knight. See what I mean about this looking like one of the imposters? Segueing from the Batman to the Joker, and here we have the Batman who laughs. For our first Joker proper, however, and here we have Arkham Asylum, and then reusing a lot of that figure, here we have Rebirth. Since I didn't show it in the first video, here we have the 3 Jokers Comedian and the 3 Jokers Criminal. Up next is the Walmart exclusive Death of the Family, the recently released Infinite Frontier, and lastly, Heath Ledger from The Dark Knight. Even though this isn't technically a head swap video, I am curious about this one. The neck doesn't match, of course, and the body's definitely bulky, but I don't know, I think there's something to this. For one more Jokerized hero, however, and here we have Superman the Infected. For a relative scale comparison, here's a Jokerized Dark Detective Batman with Pete the Spidey and the Spectacular Spider-Man. And as always, here he is with Stealth Iron Man. This figure has breathed new life into a version of the character that I was admittedly slow to warm on. Again, I love the idea of using this as a Batman-themed Joker goon instead of Batman himself. I just wish he came with some character-specific accessories. Even so, I love the concept of collecting to build a playing card deck, and for playability, I'm giving the Jokerized Dark Detective Batman 1 whole point. This leaves us with nothing left to discuss but the price. The Jokerized Dark Detective Batman is a Target exclusive and retails for $24.99. That's the same as a collect-to-build figure without a collect-to-build piece. The question you have to ask yourself is if a trading card stand and 4 playing cards is worth this. The other question you have to ask is, will that price go up? With standard figures now going for $22.99, how much longer before this gets jacked up also? If I'm correct that there's going to be 14 figures at $25, that equals a $350 investment. That's a pretty expensive deck of cards. And if McFarlane decides to ante up with a higher price, I'm afraid I'm gonna have to fold. For price, I'm giving Jokerized Batman half a point, but thanks to the boost from packaging, he still gets a grand total of 5 out of 5. Is this a concept you're interested in, and if so, what other Jokerized Batman characters would you like to see? Sound off in the comments below. If you like this video, check out one of these. Thank you so much for watching. I'll be back again real soon, but until then, play nice and have fun.